Happy that you are joining us today, tonight, this afternoon, wherever you are. Have some fun stories to share with you. We have Sean Combs returning to the music industry. We have an intriguing acquisition that is happening in business, in the entertainment business, if you will. We also have some news about a well known action film making its way to the small screen as a series, and also an iconic actor joining an already all-star cast in a highly anticipated upcoming sequel. All of that and more on This Week in Review, only on Movers and Shakers Unlimited. All right, guys. So, good evening to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and I'm joined by
Jerome Bourgeois, co-creator, co-founder of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. What's up, man? You had a good time with the little EU Open thing?
So,
It's a rock the little cap.
If you're not understanding the reference there, inside joke there, we had an opportunity to do the European Union open house. If you guys aren't familiar, here in DC, they give folks an opportunity to visit, many of the embassies, that are here in the area, and kind of get a feel for what they're about, and a lot of times you have some fun elements, whether it's being exposed to some of the culture elements of that particular place, whether it's the food, whether it's some of the dances, unique dances that are specific to that place. And Jerome, I know I went to a couple of them. You went to a couple of them. How was your experience before we hop into our story?
All I'll say is the Embassy of Romania had it down because they had their food truck outside, so you didn't have to wait in the long line.
All right,
but it looked like you had fun at the Denmark one?
The Denmark one. I would say out of all of those, the Denmark one was it felt like the most effort in terms of what a lot of the embassies did. They put the most effort forth to try to make a unique experience for those that were attending the event. So shout out to
but they have another one. They do have another one coming up. It's like Passport DC, so with the other embassies. So I'll probably check that out just to see the different ones. But anyway, it was different, something different to do. So
for sure. Now with that out of the way, let's hop into our stories. First up, as I said, we had some news in the music industry, and it was centered around Sean Combs. I know many folks still list him as Puff Daddy, but P Diddy. However, whatever aliases you want to, whatever aliases you want to use. But this week it was announced that he would be launching a new R&B label called Love Records, which will be a one album deal with Motown Records. Now, as I said, this is basically, aside from the news of this new label, it also announces, Sean Combs' return officially to music. So, Jerome, what are your thoughts on this story?
And thanks for joining us for this episode 61. So thanks for watching. I'll make a full disclaimer. I actually interned and did some work at Motown Records, and I actually was one of Diddy's camera guys for a little small period of time. So it's kind of like a little biased story. But anyway, I will say, what's it called? I thought it was just interesting because he kind of, he's an entrepreneur. And obviously music is his first love because that's what got him, that's how he built his empire. But he transitioned into having a clothing line with Sean John, then to he had Ciroc, and that's I think that was one of his big money makers. He has a management company, and then Revolt TV, and that's been his baby. So it was kind of it was a little bit not completely shocking, but it was a little bit surprising. I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, I was like, yeah, it just didn't seem like he really was, working on a lot of music projects or specifically focusing on that part of Bad Boy. Because I mean, I know they signed some artists, but I don't know how much he's involved as much, on that end. But I thought it was interesting because as a to start an R&B label, I mean that makes sense because a lot of the music that he put out in specifically hip hop and like I mean you could probably say he coined the term hip hop soul, like like because Mary J. Blige is like the queen of hip hop soul. I mean they all had like it's like soul music infused into a lot of the instrumentals and R&B. I mean obviously the collabs. I mean he obviously had artists like obviously he worked with Mary J. Blige a lot, pretty much helped develop her career. Faith Evans, Total, 112, and yeah, I mean, and I know he had that Bad Boy reunion tour recently, so I guess he's you always got to go back to your first love, right? But I would be interested. I would be interested to see if he's going to bring back any of those other older R&B acts also, or is it just going to be more focused on like signing new talent, and also like just maybe oh yeah, I mean like Janelle Monáe, that was also I mean that was a good, obviously look at her career. Like he definitely was involved in that and signing her. I think it was with Big Boy, so from Outkast, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see like what kind of artists he signs and like and if he also like I said brings back some of the older artists and maybe there's some collabos there, but um yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting and I don't know, he's probably gonna I'm sure he's gonna get on some tracks too, so um yeah, I'm gonna keep. I'm definitely gonna see. We'll see how it turns out. So, because I mean, he knows what he's doing as a producer
Yeah,
and executive.
I'll say this, and in terms of what they comment on here, in the story and inside of Variety. So shout out to Variety, for the story. Um, is there are some pieces of it that are really interesting. The fact that he's returning to the music industry officially and trying to get into music again really says something about him because as you say he has a lot of ventures, so he doesn't necessarily need to come back to the music industry. He has other plates that he's holding, so to speak, in terms of other ventures that he has, so it's not like he has nothing else that that he could be involved in. So it must be something that's really, you know, something really strongly pulling him towards coming back, that he feels like he has to provide. It must be something that's just like stirring around in his head, like, oh, they're these songs that I feel like, or these beats that I feel like are really going to take off, or I would be doing a disservice if I did not provide uh my creativity to or my energy to this industry, that I feel that I can still bring some new elements to. And I mean, he comments on what in the story about also bringing up the next generation of artists. But I also say, don't get it twisted that we have this deal happening, and Love Records coming up. However, you have that stipulation in there, is that he will be doing that first project as a part of that deal. So it's not going to be something where you have this partnership with Motown Records, and they're just taking on a brand new artist under the guise of someone else acting in the wings as a producer, like they're kind of helping to shepherd a brand new artist. No, they still ensured that as a part of this deal, yes, we're going to introduce some new artists, but you're a part of that deal too, in terms of you bringing your musical talents to the endeavors, that we have going. So, do you have any, additional comments? I was just saying, I just find it interesting that he's coming back when there's overall just no real need to, honestly. So there must be something, truly truly inspiring for him to want to come back and to do more, in the industry. And additionally, the fact that, as a part of that deal, as I said, that he is, a part of that, initial portion of that deal in terms of doing that first project.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, like, lastly, I'm also wondering too if he's going to use this to also, you know, combine with Revolt. Maybe like there's some programming he's going to think of. Because I mean, I remember he pretty much made after making the band was already, with started off with O Town or whatever, from Lou Pearlman. Well, that's another story. Diddy kind of like took that on, and I mean, he did like 3 seasons of it. So I'm not saying he's going to do that exactly, but you never know. Maybe there's some programming on Revolt that they're going to tie in with some of these artists that they sign. I mean, who knows? And because it's weird. Like I'm curious to know. I'm not because I'm sure he's probably trying to get Revolt to a place where it's like he doesn't have to be as hands on. But I'm sure like he's probably trying to figure out more interesting different types of programming that he could put on that network, and also I feel like just in general, like we were saying, like why would he go back? I mean, if you look at a lot of these artists who become really successful entrepreneurs, I mean, there's always an element of music that they go back to. I mean, you look at Jay-Z, he still puts out albums like, even if it's not every year, but he'll still come back to it. Kanye West is still putting out music, even though he has his shoes line and clothing line and all this stuff. And even 50 Cent maybe he's not putting out albums, but you better believe the Power Show and all those spin-offs, there's like a new song that he's part of. So, I feel like no matter what, there's, even if some of these artists who originally found success in music, if they found success in music originally, and then they move on to other ventures and different mediums within entertainment, I feel like they're always gonna find a way to go back to what originally got them started in the industry and just passionate about it. Because I mean, if you have a passion for music, you're gonna, I don't think it doesn't go away. Like whatever you have a passion for, usually it doesn't go away unless you just get so tired of it. And I mean, music, that's something you can do. It's collaborative, but you could do a lot of it by yourself too, with less people, as opposed to like making a film. Like you need lots of people, or you need, that's really a process. So I think there might be some other, reasons behind just this label. So, but yeah, well, I'm just hoping he signs some really good artists and we have some good music. So,
Indeed,
he knows how to do that.
All right, so moving on to our next story, bringing up here. So as I said, there was an interesting or intriguing acquisition that happened over the course of this week, or news of it anyway, and that's the fact that an all-stock deal between I should say an all-stock deal of Crackle parent Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment is acquiring Redbox. So the value of the deal currently, according to the story out of Deadline, is that about $375 million, most of which is the assumption of Redbox's debt, but it's going to encompass a deal, as I said, of an amount of $375 million. And there's some other interesting caveats here in terms of the stake that Redbox will still have, and the majority stake that Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment has. But before we get into that, Jerome, just initial impressions. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting story, specifically because I don't know about you, but when I think of Redbox, I just think of the little kiosk that you see at supermarkets, and it actually, I mean, it was a pretty simple and successful, business model. Because remember, like you go to buy some groceries or whatever, and you can rent a movie for like what? I mean, it was pretty cheap, like $1, $2. I guess some are $3. They might have gone, they would have, and obviously that was kind of a when Blockbuster went bankrupt or just went out of business. Obviously, Netflix was taking over, but I remember Redbox was one of those replacements where you're like, yeah, where do people go to rent movies now if you don't have Netflix? Oh, when you're at the supermarket. Obviously, their selection wasn't always like the best, but they would have at least the new movies, the latest releases that just they would have a lot of the hit movies and they would rotate. Um, and yeah, and like if you didn't want to have that subscription model, of paying for Netflix, usually, I mean, because Netflix was taking over, and they were you could originally Netflix, they would send you the DVD in the mail, and you'd have a certain amount you could have. So this was kind of like I remember I would hit up Redbox sometimes and be like, oh yeah, let me just check that out. It's not that much. Okay, boom, I'll watch that movie because I didn't want to pay more to see it in the theaters for whatever reason. If I couldn't find it at the library. But
Yeah, people
I mean,
sleep in
looking
the
at this
library.
article,
I was
yeah,
about to
no,
say
library
people
is
sleep.
good.
Yeah,
Library
you can find a lot of
usually for older
DVDs.
films, they have some new, but yeah,
And
library
you
don't.
can
I
rent
mean, they
out
don't
for
have
a
everything.
long time. I think it was like what, a week or something. Like, yeah, people sleep, but don't sleep
No,
in
no,
your
hey,
library.
library. Don't sleep on library. Don't
Don't
sleep
sleep in
on.
your
They have good.
libraries. They have a
Yeah,
lot of good
yeah.
stuff. Go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, no, you're right. No, I'm glad you said that. But no, what I thought was interesting is like it just shows how it doesn't matter what company it is that's going into that would maybe was in the DVD business or whatever. Like I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't been keeping up with like what Redbox has been doing. I didn't even know they got to streaming. It makes sense, and it says they got into production and stuff. I'm curious to know what movies they produced. I mean, I'm sure I might have seen some. I have no idea. But the idea that even they pivoted and then now they're getting acquired. Um, by Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. I thought that's pretty interesting, and it's pretty telling, about the streaming market and how like, I mean, obviously, if you're not the biggest player, there's still market share that other companies are trying to acquire and consolidate as much as possible, and there's still some value there. Even though now it's like even the big players like Netflix. I mean, obviously they have to change their strategy because they were losing subscribers recently. Um, but it definitely shows that people do want to have like that ad supported tier, which is cheaper. Not everyone, but not everybody wants to spend a higher amount every month for a streaming service. And yeah, I mean, I just feel like also regardless, that the one challenge for any streaming service to even try to be successful is like it's just your selection, like having a vast library, because it's like that's really what you're competing with. Because if you don't have that vast library of different types of films or whatever license you have, or it's hard to compete. So I just thought it was interesting. I was like, man, Redbox, wow. I mean, hey, good for them. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, man? Besides,
I don't know. Like there, as
you're
I
talking
said,
about.
there are a lot of interesting, pieces, to this story. The fact that I want to say the one thing that is interesting is just that trend that we've been seeing of a lot of streamers trying to kind of restructure their model so that way they are able to take advantage of another stream of revenue by adding that component of ads that uh, before in most cases they didn't have, which was kind of the selling point. Ironically, the selling point, to start with, was the fact that you didn't have to get into a lot of commercials. Like you were able just to watch the programming. But now in this day
Yeah.
and age, as we have inflation happening and everyone is feeling the pinch. Even the consumers that are consuming these streamers, the programming on these streamers, the content on these streamers, the streamers themselves have to find ways to still bring in revenue without it affecting the pricing that they have for the consumer. So one way of doing that, of finding a cheaper way of doing that, is by giving different tiers, as it's explained in this article, of providing a tier where there's going to be advertising. So even in some of the shows that I watch that are streamed, like you still have that component of minor commercials here and there. It may not be like an excessive amount as you would see on primetime television, on your ABCs, your NBCs, when a lot of your primary channels. you're still going to have, little small snippets, whether it's a 15-second spot or a 30-second spot before they, hop back into, the programming that you're watching. Now, one thing that I also wanted to touch on, and I commented on it before, see if I can locate it here. Is talking about the the stake that each company has. So yeah, here we go. So it says after the close of the deal, which is expected in the second half of 2022, Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment stockholders will own about 76.5 of the combined company, and Redbox stockholders will own roughly 23.5 of it. The company will continue to trade on Nasdaq under the ticker symbol CSSE. So they're still going to have, obviously they're not going to be the majority shareholder, but they're still going to have a voice in terms of what's happening with the company going forward. They're still going to be in the room to be able to hear some of the things that are going to be happening with the company moving forward. And that part of it I found interesting, because sometimes that doesn't always happen, or in terms of that percentage that you have there is far more drastic. So it's like I said, it's just interesting in terms of the day and age that we're in right now, trend wise, of how things are shifting. First, in the last couple of years with what's happened with the pandemic, obviously, we've had, I felt like, kind of we knew that it was coming, but we had kind of like a speed up, if you will, of streaming becoming, the primary or one of the primary means of entertainment. We knew that it was coming. We knew that it was on the way. But I feel the fact that, people were forced to stay at home for the last 2 years kind of sped up that timetable. And now we have another, frontier now that, with the economy and having that inflation, now we're having, another caveat within streaming itself, where we're seeing the streamers trying to find additional ways to generate revenue. So it's just interesting.
But that also is very telling to see, like, that's the difference between a company that is like they're only making money one way and the ones that aren't. Like, that's why Disney is like on a better, they have a better foundation, because they're not just relying on Disney Plus. So they can, they have wiggle room to grow that and everything. But I also found it interesting, if you look at the article, I mean, we talked about this before, because the same company, Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment, they acquired.
Say that five times fast.
Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. Yeah, Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. All right, we can do that.
It's a lot, guys.
Chicken Soup for the Soul. I'll just say that.
It's a lot. But yeah, go ahead.
But they acquired Crackle, from Sony's in 2020, like in the article, and it's like, this is also interesting to see, because it just shows like some studios aren't really getting into that business. They might just be like, hey, let's sell that out. And then all the people who are like, or maybe it's like whoever's not really getting into it, it seems like other companies are trying to acquire, or maybe they're going to consolidate more. I don't know. It seems like it could be that way. Who knows? I even wonder, like, what, I still think Netflix still can change their ways and maybe, figure out other ways to get revenue. Maybe release their films theatrically. The ad supported tier. There's other ways too. So I think they still have time, but you never know. It's like, if some of these companies can't survive because they're not growing as much, or they're not pulling enough revenue, and they're spending so much to make all these movies and TV shows, whatever, they might just get acquired by like another, maybe another big tech company. It might just be like, I don't need to start a service. I'm just buy one of these, and then boom. Obviously the deal with Amazon and MGM, it's not exactly the same, but it's kind of similar, because it's like that helped their library. Like, hey, we own all the MGM assets. You don't have to produce as much stuff. You can just buy. But it also goes to show the argument I've heard from other people, and it makes sense that you could almost say, even though I don't think it's really the same type of content, but if you want to talk about just content, you could technically say like Google might win this war, because you think about it, they don't have to spend much money for all the stuff that we put on YouTube, like it's free. Like they're not paying for that, and they're getting revenue from that. So it's like, I mean, I don't put that in the same category because it's like Netflix and some of these other ones. They're producing like high quality like shows and stuff that we want to watch. But just in general, like that model, the idea of like, hey, you're getting all these people to produce stuff. They get Google doesn't have to pay for it, and then they just have to they give the creators a cut of the revenue. I mean, it's a pretty good model compared to like, I mean, Netflix and these other companies. I mean, Netflix I think spent like 17 billion, and they borrowed a lot of that money. So I mean, that's also tough. On it's hard to make that money back if but they have to keep doing that. So to a certain extent, now they're cutting costs. So it's yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how this pans out. I just feel like in the future we're gonna see probably some more consolidation and some more or like I said, other streams of revenue that these companies are they're going to be forced to find.
Well, with that
Otherwise, I
being
don't know how they're
said,
going to
let's
survive.
just hope that we just don't have too much acquiring to the point that we only have a couple of companies around, because at that point,
Well, I mean, you already do only have a couple of companies, so it's not really that different.
you do, but
it's always been like that. But it's always been like that.
But I'm just saying, like,
few
just the idea of competition breeds quality, in terms of the content that we have, and the more that acquisition takes place, a lot of it becomes the same because it's under that same mission or that same model. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out for sure.
Yeah. But all right, if they can't survive, then they got to get acquired. I mean, what are you gonna do? I'd rather still see some things being produced, than it's just going away because they can't survive. But hey, we'll see. It's gonna be interesting. That's why I'm all for like some small. No, you can have smaller studios. Yeah, that's always gonna happen. But the big ones, there's always been like a few. It's never like
sure, but
I'm just saying like that's tech companies now.
I would say more so with, that may be the case, but, and having those smaller companies that provides the license for you to get a lot more niche type of content that
I think that's important.
People enjoy.
No, I agree. That's important. We need to have more of that. So anyway.
All right. So hopping into our next story, let me pull it up here. So, as I mentioned before, we do have a well-known action franchise that is now making its way on a small screen as a series. You guys are probably confused. Why don't we have Jamie Lee Curtis or Arnold Schwarzenegger? So, what do I mean by that? We have True Lies, the series adaptation has been ordered by CBS for its 2022-2023 broadcast season. This comes after the show was originally ordered to pilot at CBS back in February of 2021, before it was pushed off cycle for consideration during this year's pilot season. So similar to the film, we have an unfulfilled suburban housewife, Ginger Gonzaga, who is shocked to discover that her bland and unremarkable computer consultant husband, Steve Howie, is a skilled international spy. She's propelled into a life of danger and adventure when she is recruited to work alongside him to save the world as they try to revitalize their passionless marriage. Now, Jerome, you hear the news of this adaptation of the well-known, as I said, iconic action film. And what are your thoughts of what we may get here?
I mean, we were talking about this a while back. You go look at some of our older episodes. We were talking about this previously. So I guess, hey, it's really happening. Yeah, I mean, I could see this being a series. I mean, I know it says... I mean, this is the only thing, though. I will be honest. I mean, okay, first of all, it's going to be on CBS. So I'm wondering if that's regular CBS network or that's what I'm assuming. It doesn't sound like... Well, that's true because there's no more CBS All Access. It's just Paramount Plus. I think, so they changed. Because there's a difference. Because remember CBS All Access? Like, I would watch The Good Fight. It's on, they curse and everything. It's not just PG or PG-13. TV network show. So that's one thing to know. I mean, possible it could still be good, but I know James Cameron is an executive producer on it, but I really doubt that he's really involved in this because he's still working on these Avatar sequels. But his name's on it. I don't know. I mean, I still give it a chance. I think the premise could work. And it would be interesting maybe if they did have a cameo from Arnold Schwarzenegger or Jamie Lee Curtis or Tom Arnold. Um, but yeah, you know I don't know. I just I just feel like usually when TV series are I've noticed the trend. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't watched all the shows that were adapted from like classic action movies, which I think have been ridiculous. Some I refuse to watch because I
Beverly
know they
Hills
did what
Cop.
Lethal Weapon. Did they do? They turned
No,
that
no,
into a
Lethal
series?
Weapon. That's
No, no,
right.
Lethal
Lethal
Weapon,
Weapon.
bro.
That's
No,
what I'm
It
confused
was
with.
Lethal
Yeah, Lethal
Weapon,
Weapon.
Rush. They did Lethal Weapon, Rush Hour, Minority Report. I don't think any of those lasted. I haven't seen any of them, but I was just like, I was like, I don't know. So this is kind of like the fourth one. I feel like from that era. I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they did like a Die Hard series, which I hope they don't.
Please don't.
Yeah, don't give me. Yeah, I don't want to give you ideas to people. Okay, but that's how I treat these series. So it's like, all right, if you already had a classic action film, classic movie that worked, it was great, it's iconic. If you want to try and turn it into a series or something, I feel like you still got to have that same tone and like all those movies, except for the Rush
I was
Hour.
gonna say I
That's
don't
true,
know
Rush Hour.
how you're gonna be able to
All those are
stretch.
R-rated.
I don't know how you're gonna be able to stretch. The premise because it works within the amount of time, the allotted time that you have for that film. That basic premise of what's happening, and eventually, like I don't know. I feel like at some point, just that idea of kind of playing off of that idea of the husband, being apparently, initially appearing to be kind of boring, but he actually is secretly, this cool spy. Like that's going to get old after a while. Just being able to pace that properly. Of not to say that
It
it
would have
can't
to
be
be
done.
funny though.
I'm
It'd have to
just
be
saying,
funny
like
though, I think.
you
Yeah.
really kind of have to make those beats work. Of trying to show that dichotomy of him being a spy, but also acting as if he's some boring guy for a couple of episodes, and then finally that heel turn of her, discovering who he really is. Like, when is that going to happen? Is that going to
You could
happen
do that
next
after the first
season?
season, but I mean, they've done that
Like,
with. I mean, The Sopranos. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Like, Sopranos is great, but the big issue I always had with the show was like, why would his family stay with him when they know that he's a gangster? You know what I'm saying? Like, they make it, but like they make
so
it work,
to your point, I'm
and they do
saying
that with, and also with Breaking Bad. I mean, she finds out what he does, and then he like makes some.
but
Some of
still,
that you
I was
could
gonna
say from
say
point is like
to
doesn't make sense,
to your
but it
point,
works if you build it.
though, I'm saying to your point, I don't know how, because at least in the at the end, spoiler alert, I'll spoiler, but I mean it's what, it's 28 years old. It came out in 94, guys. But like you get to the point where she eventually, joins him, in that career path. And so, you have this nice, nice ending where you don't necessarily need to see what happens next. You already haven't had the implication of what happens next, and that, they continue on as spies. But if you do that same beat here, it's not, I don't know if that setup is going to be entertaining or last long enough. Whether you try to do it halfway into the season and have her become a spy, or even if you follow the same beat of the film and have her become a spy by the end of the season, like, what are you going to do, season 2? Are you going to have it set up where like they're both spies and they're trying to hide it from their kids? I mean, eventually that setup of them, acting
Well, it
like
can just
grown people when
continue
they're
on from
spies,
there.
would be
But
boring.
like I said, you got to remember, not every show continues the same premise for the whole show. You know what I'm saying? Like, they could add
I
on.
hope they
They can.
have something else up their sleeve, because like
But
that
no,
initial
it could
premise.
be more of an espionage. It could become like an espionage. Like I thought they were gonna just do a sequel because I remember that's what they originally were gonna do, just like an
Right.
actual movie. But I think just James Cameron, he doesn't care about this stuff. Like, all he cares about is Avatar. I hope he gets after the fourth Avatar. There's supposed to be 4 sequels. I think it's supposed to be 3 sequels and a prequel. I'm like, dude, please go to something else. I just think he's just not interested in do. So that's, but whatever. No, I think, dude, you'd be surprised, man. There's some shows where it's like, I was like, there's tons of shows where it doesn't seem like
Well, it's gonna have
this
to be
premise should even
some.
work. It's the writing though too. I'm just saying,
It's gonna have to
like
be
the thing is,
some
they could go deep
major.
into the organization. I guess they could go to the organization, and then they could go, and then it just had my thing is it would have to be funny. To me, do we really need this? Like I don't even know. Like I don't know if it's really gonna work. Like I said, I'm not that pressed, but it is interesting to see how it morphed into a TV show because originally they were supposed to be doing a sequel, like a movie sequel. And I mean, to me, the only reason I like that movie is like I said, obviously Schwarzenegger, but James Cameron. Like I mean, I'll
I
check out
mean, I
anything he
like it
does.
just because of the dynamic that they have
And it
of
was
that
interesting. I
setup.
mean, it's based off of
Yeah.
a French film, anyways. Based, I mean, it's a remake too of some French film, but yeah, but it was a good action comedy, and that was something different for James
And then
Cameron.
the
Like he
other
didn't
question
do
is,
that.
and I mean, I have no way of knowing this until I watch, the series, obviously. But will it work, in Gonzaga, and what's the other gentleman's name? Let's see here. Of let's see, Howie. I want to say his name is. Apologize if I'm butchering it. So it,
Steve Howie
yeah, Steve Howie.
and Ginger Gonzaga.
Right. So
Yeah,
like let's hope that it functions, in their hands, because a huge part of what made the original movie work was the chemistry between Schwarzenegger and Curtis. Like that's what made it work. I mean, on top of that too, Tom Arnold, like, he brought some, comedic elements to it
yeah.
also. So like, the dynamic that you have between the cast is really going to, determine how far, it can go. Hopefully,
Casting and the writing. The
I
writing
have
is going to be a big
I
part
have
of it.
no way of knowing until I watch the series, but at least on paper, we'll
But
see, because like I
I'll tell
love that
you,
movie, and I don't know if that can be recaptured.
yeah, no, no, it's not. But I'm just saying, like to your what you were saying about like, can you stretch that? Like, dude, I'll give you another example. Power. The movie that show Power was successful. A lot of that show was he's a club owner and he's a gangster and he's hiding it. I mean, his family knows, but he's hiding it from his girl. I'm just saying they fight if people want to see it, if they make it interesting enough and like you could do it, but like I said, it's the like you were saying the acting,
We'll
the
see.
chemistry has to be there, and the right.
We'll
But I'm
see.
just saying, there's plenty of examples of people doing like I bet you even if somebody pitched Breaking Bad, they probably like, what the hell is this? But it was well done. I'm
Well,
just saying.
this is what I'll say. Like they're going to have to do something really drastic beyond the initial setup of what True Lies is about for it to be able to continue. Yeah, I mean, a good example of this, and I know we flack on it a lot of times, but hey, we see every single installment, and it is what it is. Like they found a way
Oh,
to
Fast and
Fast and
Furious.
Furious, yeah. Like for the longest time, you make fun of it a lot of times. You always say, "Oh, it's a Point Break," and I mean, yeah, that initial premise,
No, it was.
that's what I'm saying. That
The
premise
first
is
one. That's why the
basically
first one. That's why the
that
first one
premise
wasn't the
is
best
very
one.
much that premise is very much like that. But by the fourth and fifth film, it became about
It got more
heist. It
interesting,
became about heist. So like it
and
became
that's
more.
when it got better.
So that's what I'm saying. Like they're gonna
That's when
have
it
to
got
find
better.
something drastic outside of the
Yeah, I mean,
initial
TV
premise,
shows you can do that. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't
No,
know if
I
they're
feel
gonna
you.
do that. So we'll see.
Look, I'm not saying that this is gonna be great or nothing like that. I mean, I'm just saying that what you were talking about though is possible to do because there's several
I
shows where they
hope.
do that. It's like, but in the end, it's the right. In the end, it's the writing and the chemistry, and you know, do I want to watch the next? You know, the writing will make me. Do I want to see the next episode? Like, if it doesn't make me want to do that, then yes, you got a problem. But it's hilarious how they're resorting to let's remake or let's make a show out of every. I mean, I feel like that's where we're getting to. Like, it's like if you can't remake the movie in a movie, we're gonna do a
Yeah,
TV series. But you would think they would have learned from those other ones because those I don't think those all those other ones got
they ain't
canceled,
last too
right?
long.
But
But
guess what? Why did those movies work though? It wasn't because of just the premise. It was because of the actors, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover's chemistry, Jackie
oh,
Chan,
I
Chris
agree
Tucker's
with you.
chemistry.
I agree with
So
you.
that's what I'm saying. But that's why I think it's funny how they don't. I feel like whoever's greenlighting these shows isn't like getting that. But whatever.
Hey, I don't
You
know.
can't just you can't
Recognizable,
you can't put
recognizable
someone
IP
in.
is I guess irresistible. I don't know.
It's just hilarious, man. I just think it's funny. But hey, whatever. It could be good. You never know.
I mean, I'll give it a shot, but I'm just saying, just
I mean,
like
it did the
I don't know.
Jack Ryan. Hey, Jack Ryan, I think is ending on a. I mean, it lasted 4 seasons. Doesn't
Yeah,
have Harrison Ford or
yeah,
Alec Ball. Harrison Ford was Jack Ryan for 3 movies.
yeah, yeah.
I think it was three
Like I said,
movies, right, or two
we'll see.
movies, or
I want to say it's
two
two
movies. I think.
movies. I believe it's
No, it was
two
two
movies.
movies. Yeah, he wasn't in the other one. And then Ben Affleck was one.
Right, right, right.
So and Alec Baldwin in the Hunt for
So
Red
we'll
October.
see,
Yeah. So
guys. like I said,
But
I'll
I'm
check
just
it
saying,
out,
like,
but on paper, I don't know. I don't, I don't,
it's
I don't
unnecessary.
know.
It's unnecessary,
It's
but
not
hey,
needed.
we'll see.
Yeah, we will
We'll
see.
see.
All right. So to close off this episode of This Week in Review, you probably saw it in the title. We have a legendary actor who is joining the Dune sequel. Let me bring it up now. We have none other than Christopher Walken joining the cast of Dune Part 2. He is set to play, according to a story in Deadline, according to their sources, set to play the Emperor in the upcoming, highly anticipated sequel. Of course, he's already joining an all-star ensemble that includes the likes of Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya, Josh Brolin, as well as Timothy Chalamet. So, Jerome, you hear the news, of this sequel, and what are your thoughts?
No, I mean it's great. I mean they're really really going all out with the cast. So yeah, and he would be perfect for being like one of the top, you know, the more powerful characters. I mean the Emperor. I mean I don't know the entire backstory of Dune and everything in the book and all that or the books, but yeah, I mean hey, to me that's what made the movies that last movie pretty good or or interesting enough to watch or that drew my attention because I was like, wow, they're really going all out with the cast. But of course, the filmmaker Denis Villeneuve, like he's great. Um, I just thought it was funny that they didn't. I thought they were gonna shoot this like back to back, or like. But I guess they had to see how the part one was. I had no idea that that was going to be a part one movie. I mean, but it's long. I guess the book's long. So, but hey, that's great. It's coming out soon. I mean, it's supposed to be next year. So, uh, hey, whenever you can make a sci-fi film or epic type of film with great actors, especially legendary, I mean, people who've been in so many iconic, films and roles, and they're just great. Like I said, it just elevates your movie. So, I mean, yeah, I didn't expect Christopher Walken to be cast in this role, but I mean, I think pretty
I
much
didn't either.
anything he does, I'll watch, man.
No, I hear you. So I guess from my perspective, just as you said, it doesn't hurt to have more talent in your film. And I'll be honest, similar to you, like I'm not the biggest like Dune fan, or I should say, I'm not deeply entrenched into the fandom of Dune. I remember. I'm familiar with the original film. I had watched the original film. It's been years though. I remember when I don't know if you remember this, they had the sci-fi, version of it that actually had what's his name? James McAvoy, actually, if I recall, was in the sci-fi version. I'll look that up. I'm pretty sure he was in that version.
You mean on the
So
sci-fi? It was on the Sci-Fi Channel or no?
Sci-Fi Channel,
They had
yeah, they did
another.
a sci-fi
Wow.
movie.
Okay, I haven't watched
Yeah, yeah,
that.
they did. I
Yeah.
want to say it was either a movie or a mini series that they did on Sci-Fi Channel. That had James McAvoy as our character, as our lead there. I'll look it up again. I want to say
It
that's
was a mini. It looks like a mini series,
yeah,
right?
but it was James
Yeah.
McAvoy, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, like
Dune and Children of Dune.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking
Children of
at it right
Dune.
now.
Yeah. So, in terms of that, like in watching the initial film, part one, if you will, it was the thing that really drove the film. It wasn't just the world building, which was really good. The effects, obviously were top notch. The ensemble was great. Was terrific. If that element didn't work, it didn't matter. How awesome the world building was of establishing these different factions and these different locales and settings. If that didn't work, then that whole film would have fallen apart. And it's a testament to that ensemble that I feel that film is very, interesting and intriguing. I mean, don't get me wrong, like the effects are, great. They're terrific, but the cast, helps sell, them inhabiting, the settings and the locales of that world, help in enjoying that film. And if you don't buy, the performances of the folks that you have that are in that ensemble, it doesn't matter, how great your special effects are, or what efforts are being done to establish mythology or lore with that film, it wouldn't have worked. So I look forward to seeing what Christopher Walken brings to it. We had what Skarsgård previously in the
Hmm.
prior installment, and he brought something really like creepy and unique to the role that he did. So I'll be interested to see what Walken does in this upcoming installment. Did you have any final thoughts
Yeah, it's
before
interesting.
we?
Also, like I'm trying to think, was Christopher Walken in any? Has he been in any sci-fi type of film? Like, I'm trying to remember. Like,
I mean, he's been in like.
what has he been in too? Because that's another thing. It's great. I mean, for him to be in
I
a
mean,
genre film like
I'll
that.
go way back. Of course, with my superhero stuff, I remember him
Let me see what.
from Batman Returns way back when. He was awesome in that.
Yeah, but that's not
But
sci-fi. That's
no, I know,
superhero.
I said
Yeah,
superhero. But I
I'm talking
want to
about
say he
sci-fi film.
was. I want to
I don't.
say has been
I mean, he was in
in.
Click. That's not really. That's like comedy, but it has like some. That's
But
more supernatural.
he has been in some. I feel like he's been in some. In
I'll
this,
look
I'm
him
just
up.
brain farting on what those films
That's
are.
what I'm saying. I always like
But
when you see like actors like that in or in a sci-fi film. Or I mean, he's been in action films, of course. He's been on gangster movies.
in the
He's been in
rundown,
a lot of
like
different
I
movies.
enjoyed him in the rundown. I don't know if you ever saw you guys up there
Yeah, I
the
saw that. No, that
rundown.
was
That
pretty
was
good. But I
pretty
mean,
good
like I
as well.
said, yeah, but that's action. Like I said, like sci-fi. I'm trying to see. That's what I'm wondering. That's why I
And I
was like, that's
mean,
cool though.
I
Like
guess
seeing
more
his.
so, not necessarily in science fiction, but
Well,
he
the
had a hand.
prophecy. Yeah, I
I'm about
remember
to say
that.
in
But
horror.
that's
Well, I can't say.
supernatural.
Yeah, supernatural horror. So,
But that's not. Yeah, that ain't sci-fi. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah. So I'm trying to see. I'm
it
wondering if
might
this is
then.
his first
It
sci-fi
might
like
be.
big movie.
It might be because, like I said, I could have sworn that I picture him being in a science fiction film, but maybe I'm just thinking of the horror,
I
the
mean, he's been
horror
in
related
supernatural and horror
projects
stuff,
he did.
yeah, but and of course, Man on Fire, Stuff for Wives, stuff like that. Rundown,
Yeah,
She
so
Leaves.
perhaps not. Perhaps not. This might
Trying to
might be
think.
one of the few ones that
Oh,
he
it
had.
blast. Maybe unless you say Blast from the Past, was that like a? That was, I guess that, but that was like a That was like a
Yeah,
romantic comedy. Yeah, that
yeah,
had sci-fi in it, right? No, but I still that's a romantic comedy.
yeah. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't think like a serious sci-fi film. Like I'm trying to. I don't. I mean, unless it was something old, like yeah, he did a lot of like action and thriller stuff, and crime dramas, crime and supernatural stuff, and yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. He's done
But
a lot of
yeah, I
stuff in
haven't.
that
I
vein.
mean,
But yeah, now I think of it. I mean, you guys can let us know in the comments that
I
for
have a
some
feeling this
reason
is
it's
like his
not
big
immediately
first.
coming to
Yeah,
mind right now. But yeah, like most of it's kind of been like supernatural, like horror fare or like action films and dramas, of course. But yeah, like I can't really think of offhand. For some reason I could have sworn that he had been over the course of his career uh in a science fiction film, and I'm sure I'll probably think of it long after this, if it is indeed the case, long after this episode has aired. But at least
I mean,
right
I was just
now
looking
I'm
at his
brain farting
IMDb
on it.
credits. I didn't see anything. Yeah, I didn't see anything. I was
Right
like, I
now
mean, it
I'm
could have
brain farting
been.
on it.
I mean, it could have been like maybe a smaller film, but like a big sci-fi, like epic film. I just, you know, it's kind of like with Al Pacino. Like, I don't think. I mean, has Al Pacino been in like a big sci? I don't know. Or
Mm.
Robert De Niro, I think might have been in. Certain actors, I feel like they just, like it's just interesting seeing
Robert
them
De
in there.
Niro
Yeah.
has. Robert De Niro has.
Which one was he in? He was in
He
that.
was in that like I still classify it as science fiction. That kind of like fantasy. What was
But
it?
okay,
Where he um it's, I'm ex- uh where he had like a ship. He had like it was almost I'm brain farting on what it is. Where he was like the
yeah,
captain
shit.
of it was like the captain of this like ship. Let me see if I can pull it up offhand.
But it was fantasy though. You're saying.
But I'm saying like in terms of how the vehicles work, it was science fiction. So like you could classify it as fantasy, but it had that component of science fiction in terms of there being like vehicles in that world. Um
Because I know he's done a lot. Oh yeah, well, I mean, he was in Limit. I guess you could say Limitless, kind of, but not. I mean, that's more of a that had a
No,
sci-fi
I would
element.
classify. Yeah, I would classify that as science fiction. I would for
Yeah,
sure
but you know what I'm
classify
saying? Yeah, I mean, there's a sci-fi element, but it's like, I mean, I guess when I mean I mean like sci-fi, like you're in a world, like a sci-fi world, like like something like you know, like District 9 or something, or Star Trek. Well, I guess you could say Star Wars. That's also debatable. Space fantasy.
So that's what
But
it was.
yeah.
That's the term that I wanted to, that I was picturing. So like it was kind of like a space fan. Stardust. Stardust.
Oh yeah, I heard about. Okay, all right,
Stardust for Robert De
all
Niro.
right, okay. But that's what I'm saying. But like, out of
I had
those
to really
actors,
dig
like I
deep in there
mean,
because that was a couple of years ago.
like
Wow,
Robert De
that
Niro,
was
like Al
15 years
Pacino.
ago. I cannot believe that was 15
I don't
years
think
ago.
I don't think Al Pacino's been in like a sci-fi big sci-fi. I don't think he's been. I mean, it sounds like he could have, but I mean, Denzel, of course, he was in Virtuosity. That's like the only. I feel like that's the only one. Oh yeah, and you can say Deja Vu because it has a sci-fi element.
Yeah.
But yeah, some actors they just you just they're in so many like legendary like dramas or maybe action movie. It's funny though, they'll pivot to action a lot. I know it's like crime drama, and maybe comedies, but not that many times to sci-fi though. I've just noticed that
And I
like some of
think I
those
know
like his
why. Like,
generation.
I know for for a couple of episodes we were talking about how there's a trend towards either we have films that are really small or films that are really big, and not really seeing too many that are in that mid ground budget. And a lot of those action films are kind of in that mid budget. There weren't a whole bunch that were on like the high end. The way that a lot of studios were able to kind of get away with having kind of a mid range budget is by maybe having like one star in the film, but having a bunch of other unknowns and making it into an action film, because people are going to see, like, I would say out of genres, like horror people want to see. So even if you have a low budget horror, people want to go see it. If you have an entertaining enough action film, it doesn't need to be $100 million action film. It doesn't need
No,
to
it
be a
doesn't.
200. Like you can make a mid-tier one, 40, $50 million one, and people will go see it. So like, people think of, Blade and films like that as like these huge, monumental, high budgeted films. But like, for those of you that are not aware, like Blade was not made for
The
a
first
whole
Blade
bunch
was
of money.
45 million they spent on
Yeah,
that
and the
one.
second one wasn't made for that
I think it
much
was
more
maybe
than
like
that.
80 million. No, I think the second one might have been like 80 or something. But whatever. That's still yeah,
But
whatever.
still, in
But
the
anyway,
context, yeah, of
but I'm
that.
just no, but I'm just saying though, I still think it has to. But you do notice with like Marvel though, like the Marvel movies. I mean, okay, that's superhero, but some of them are you could say sci-fi or whatever. They have been on that trend of like getting some of these actors. I mean, you got Michael Douglas, you had I mean, you're getting Russell Crowe, you're getting who else? I mean, Anthony Hopkins. So it's like they are getting some of it. And I know that Al Pacino was saying like, oh yeah, Marvel film. That'd be interesting to like try out. So maybe eventually they'll start getting some of these actors too. But that's what I was saying. It's kind of interesting. Like if they're not going making one of these types of films through like Marvel, it's like I said, it's been kind of rare seeing some of these actors in these types of films, like from that generation, like these iconic, like you know, ones who's specifically been in like these dramas, like that's where they've carved their niche
Mhm.
out, and then maybe
I
do
got you.
comedy. So that's what I'm saying. Whenever I see someone like, if you see someone like a Christopher Walken in there, it's like it's just pretty to me. I just love seeing them do something different, So
So we will
it's
see.
that's why I'd be interested. Yeah.
We will
So
see. All right. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up this edition of This Week in Review over here at Movies and Shakers Unlimited. Before we head off, Jerome, can you tell folks where they can find you?
and shout out to my sister for being a Patreon supporter. So we got to say that shout out. I know we're doing it at the end instead of the beginning. Anyway, yeah, if you want to check me out, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JWBourgeois21. You can also follow us on Instagram at Movers Shakers Unlimited. I'm just gonna put it down there. Also, yeah, so there you go, Movers Shakers Unlimited. That's for Movers Shakers Unlimited on Instagram. Also, we're on Twitter and Facebook at Move and Shake UNLTD. And if you want to support us on Patreon, you go to patreon.com/Movers Shakers Unlimited. And also, definitely subscribe, like, on YouTube, and you can, if you have any feedback or you want to comment, go ahead, click the bell so you can get the feed, and just keep checking out the channel, because we're always if we don't have a show going on, we're also just covering stuff, and you're gonna see some really cool content, and there's definitely gonna be more stuff coming up. So yeah, and also like let us know what you want us to talk about and cover, and we'll try and add it in as a story.
Indeed, indeed. And so, as I mentioned before, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT, which you see down below. You can find me on Instagram at Brandon Choi underscore ENT. Jerome already dropped our socials for Twitter and Facebook and Instagram for Movers and Shakers Unlimited. We do have, a couple of things that are on the way in terms of shows in which we will, be giving kind of like quick appetizers for, if you will. But we will be at some upcoming shows, so just be on the lookout. We'll be at Awesome Con in a couple of weeks. Have some panels that will be happening there for not only the panel, the Cheesy Line contest that I will be emceeing with the folks over at Geek Night Out, the meetup group Geek Night Out, and then also we also have our team member who you guys know from our Star Trek critique review shows, Chris Pabon, aka Cap. He will be doing a sequel to his panel regarding Mjolnir. At Awesome Con, and it's on that topic of who is worthy of lifting Mjolnir. So whether it's villains, heroes, they will dive in on discussing who those characters are, potentially are, and who they will be. And feel free to come by and at either of those, whether feel inclined to do or read off some cheesy, corny lines of our awesomely bad our favorite awesomely bad movies, or if it means that you want to debate about characters that you feel are worthy of lifting Mjolnir. So with that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon. Peace.
So.